barriers to free exchange are bad.
Generally speaking, I mean, there's always going to be caveats. Like, obviously, I don't think we should freely trade nuclear weapons, right? I don't think it's a reality that if we don't balance a trade deficit, that we're going to default on debt or anything.
It's not necessarily the trade deficit. It's the amount of money that it's not just a trade. I mean, I understand it. We're really focused on trade right now, but there's so much more to it. The amount of foreign aid that we give out that we never receive anything back from. How does China having a 40% tariff on U.S. goods hurt them?
Because they aren't able to buy U.S. goods. It creates needless distortion,
They
needless
don't
deadweight
want our
loss.
goods. They don't want our goods. They don't care.
I'm a neoliberal. I have a presumption in favor of the free market.
But you're a socialist,
I mean,
right?
look, did you? I don't. I wouldn't. No, I don't think I'm a socialist. But
Wait, I thought neoliberals were socialists.
if you want to see more content like this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. It really helps with the algorithm. And make sure to check out the Discord and other social links in the description.
Look at NonFon. What's up, buddy? It's your first time on the
up?
show.
I guess, yeah.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
You got to come in
so far.
earlier before I'm getting ready to leave.
Listen, I'm sure we'll have time to chat other times too. But
Sure. And we're going to do that
Yeah.
debate panel on Saturday, and might be able to pick up some cash, man.
yeah, some cash. I didn't know you were offering cash.
Yes. So tell all your friends to come and donate, because the winner gets at least 10%, and I'll probably do more than that, of the take for the night.
Hell yeah, sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, I just
Those super chats coming.
I knew you were ending kind of soon. I know I came in late because I was
That's all right, man.
I was editing
It's
my
not a
own
big deal.
videos. But yeah, I guess I'm excited because I finally get to argue more about free trade. I've been doing more and more reading on it. I think I don't know if the guy who was curious about my position is still here, or if that was the other dude.
Oh, I'm here. I'm right here, man.
That
Yeah,
was
I
you?
want
That
to
was
hear
you?
what you
Okay,
have
good.
to say. You said you were a liberal, but that don't mean anything. So tell me what you got to say.
I got Joe Biden behind me. I'm a liberal. I'm a neoliberal, more specifically. So like, I'm still a capitalist. I voted for Kamala D. Harris. But there are, I mean, some policies of hers I dislike. I just really do not like most of Trump's policies, and I think his character is also pretty bad. And on free trade and tariffs, I just think that free trade is generally beneficial, and tariffs prevent that from happening. And they kind of have usually confused goals to reduce the trade deficit and bring jobs back and things like that. And then I don't even think they're particularly effective at achieving those goals. Like, I think tariffs, unless they're absurdly high, which, to be fair, Trump did do pretty absurdly high tariffs, tend to struggle to reduce trade deficits.
Yeah, I agree actually that tariffs are a stupid idea in terms of economics. But what I'm more curious about though is why is free trade important?
Because of specialization and comparative advantage and all that jazz. I mean, it lets you get more things or the same amount of things with less resources. It increases productivity. It's just really
barriers to free exchange are bad.
Generally speaking, I mean, there's always going to be caveats. Like, obviously, I don't think we should freely trade nuclear weapons, right? There might be some reasons to have strategic industries in the U.S. rather than in China. Maybe we shouldn't make batteries in China because they're our adversary. We need batteries for military drones. But generally, barriers to trade are detrimental, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm 100% behind, eliminating things like, minimum wage, right? Because that's a barrier to trading your labor.
I mean, there's going to be so minimum wage. Basically, it's going to come down. Everything's a question of cost and benefits, right? So I'm a neoliberal. I'm going to have a presumption in favor of market allocation, generally speaking. But it doesn't mean I necessarily hold that market allocation is always optimal either for, even the economy or just generally like socially optimal too. Like maybe market allocation leads to an incredibly high amount of inequality, and that's something that maybe we don't find socially acceptable. But I think with minimum wage, I mean, the empirical evidence, I haven't done a ton of reading, just tends to suggest it tends to be a beneficial thing because it just the demand and supply of labor tends to be inelastic for the most part. So it seems like
minimum wage laws are just tariffs on the price of labor.
I mean,
they have the same economic impact.
Floor.
They create when you're messing with mandatory pricing, which is what you're doing with a tariff. You're messing with the mandatory price, right? You're creating a price ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, you're creating a distortion. But again, like if the demand for labor is inelastic, right? Like you're not really creating that big of a distortion, and then the benefit on the other side is, well, like these people are getting paid quite a bit of money, or quite a bit more money.
So if there's a lot of money, it's all right.
Well, it depends. Well, if the size of the benefit is bigger than the size of the cost, then that's probably a good thing.
Okay, good. So who's in the benefit, cost analysis department in the government that has the perfect knowledge to be able to make those kind of decisions?
Well, I understand the government has limited knowledge.
Hold on. Before you move on, I'd like a clarification on a point, NonFun. I'm just curious here. How is labor inelastic?
The demand for labor tends to be inelastic. Businesses
how so?
They tend to not respond much to price changes when deciding on how many people to hire, because businesses, I mean, a lot of times just need a relatively fixed amount of labor. Like you're not actually going to fire a ton of people because the minimum wage increases if it's a modest minimum wage increase. I mean, like I said, there are, I haven't been on a minimum wage arc or anything, but it seems like the empirical evidence just suggests they're just.
I think you will find that labor is absolutely elastic. If I can, and at best, you could say that most companies want to get by with the fewest number of people that they can, and yet they don't. And I think that I don't know that I agree with that, but okay. I wanted to understand what you meant by inelastic, and I think you're off base, but whatever. It's. I just wanted to clarify it because before you guys moved on, because I just, anyway, keep going. Sorry.
I mean,
I'm just trying to understand your worldview a little bit, and I think I'm getting closer to it. I appreciate you answering these questions, NonFon, because it's really helping, man.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, so the empirical evidence for minimum wage just tends to suggest it has relatively minor cost and pretty broad-based benefits, and then it seems like the empirical evidence for tariffs tends to suggest that they don't really have many positive impacts, other than only sometimes even in the protected industries that they are protecting, and tend to have a lot of negative side effects other than that. Like,
yeah, I mean, protectionism generally causes distortions and problems, and I agree with that, right? Yeah, that's 100% behind that. Like protections for labor unions, right? That definitely distorts the market for purchasing labor and makes it more expensive for businesses. And that kind of protectionism shouldn't really exist, right? We should get rid of labor laws.
I mean, no. So again, it's going to come down to another cost and benefit thing. So I mean, on protections for unions, I think like you can maybe make the case that certain laws aren't necessarily good that are beneficial to unions. I don't have a strong opinion on like the right to work laws and things like that. But I mean, again, like it just doesn't seem like unions create that big of distortions, and it seems like they have decent sized benefits for the workers that are in them. And it seems like that's a worthwhile trade-off. And I'll also add, like, there are cases where there might be a social goal that we're trying to achieve, and it's worth maybe the economic detriment or whatever. But for a lot of these things, I don't know. It just seems like it's not. It just seems like overall positive trade-off.
So would tariffs be acceptable then in a framework where we were trying to achieve a social goal?
If it was a really good social goal, I'm obviously going to think that some social goals are, better than others. Improve the health of people in a country is a lot better social goal than saying, I want men to be more manly, so I'm going to make them work in manufacturing. One of those goals is way better, so I'm going to put a lot more weight into we should keep people healthier than we should make men more manly in manufacturing jobs. So
who in the government is in the social goals determination department then? Because there's going to have to be somebody to pull that lever, right, in your system. So who's got that kind of knowledge that knows what the best social goals are?
I mean, I'm not going to dispute that, there is such a thing as the economic calculations problem or whatever, but like, I mean, first of all, I'll say unions aren't even necessarily a like government thing. They're, private actors organizing together. Obviously, there are interactions between unions and the National Labor Relations Board and the government and all those things. But I mean, it's not like we're completely clueless. Like, we can do empirical studies, we can make educated guesses on these things. Like, we can develop probabilistic knowledge about like what the trade-offs of any given policy are going to be. Like,
that's Keynesian's models were designed to be set up like that, where there was some sort of control over the economy, and you would collect information and make decisions based on that. So you're a Keynesian economist. I was just trying to get to what your worldview is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say broadly, I might be somewhere between like new Keynesian and post-Keynesian. If the school like really matters to you, there's probably some post-Keynesian beliefs I have, but for the most part, like, I'm fine lining up with like new Keynesians, I guess.
Yeah, Grid's messing with us.
I hate to interrupt again. I have a couple of small questions. I'm curious. So the idea of unions not being a particularly large impact is very interesting. Do you remember earlier this year the dock workers union on the East Coast? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, right. So let me clarify. I mean, unions obviously raise their wage level above equilibrium, and my point is just that because the demand for labor is inelastic, that doesn't tend to have huge effects on the level of employment.
That goes against your argument. The reason that they struck was because they're literally against the modernization of the port.
Yeah.
Literally, they are standing in the way of technology because the labor is so elastic that it can be shrunk through the use of technology as far as they're concerned. Now, even when you look at the Port of LA, which is exactly the same and has a larger, not exactly the same, obviously, but has been modernized. It's only I think half modernized or whatever. I forget the percentage. It's irrelevant. They'd still hired more people than the people who were going on strike. So again, there's your elasticity.
Well,
you claim doesn't exist or it doesn't matter, and I'm curious how you reconcile that.
Well, when I say elasticity, I basically mean how much does the quantity demanded change in response to price increases, right? So like, insulin is a very price inelastic good. No matter how much the price of insulin goes up, I still have to buy basically the same amount of insulin or I'm going to die. Jelly beans are a very price elastic good because if the price of jelly beans goes up, I'll just buy gummy worms or something else.
Yeah, but insulin's a great example.
Price inelasticity is only relevant though within a specific range, right? So you can distort the economy to the point where people will just stop consuming something and change all of their habits no matter what, or way over consume something if you distort it too much in the other direction, right? So things like labor, right? People have to work, right? That's part of the reason why it's inelastic. You don't have a choice but to work in order to feed yourself, and that's kind of what you're referencing, right? You can, and that's why the income tax is so effective, right? Because you can keep taking from people, and they'll still be, tax cattle, right? Because they don't have another choice, right? That's why the income tax is so nefarious. But the idea that when you create those distortions, you're not also doing things like creating a black market where people work under the table, right? When you do things like distort the market, that is going to happen. And the same thing could definitely happen with the tariffs, right? Bootlegging could come back into fashion if we jack up the tariffs and keep them up for too long, right? So, I mean, these are all real economic problems. And that's why I said I agree with you on the tariffs, man. I mean, tariffs are stupid. Unless Trump's end game is to do the trade war to end the tariffs, then yeah, it's really stupid, right? So I'm with you 100% there, man.
Right. So I mean, I just, again, the fact that it's possible to automate ports doesn't really affect like how elastic the demand for labor is necessarily. That's not about like how much the quantity demanded for labor responds to a change in price. That's just about our ability to automate ports. By the way, I think the Longshoremen's Men's Union is fucking evil, and we should automate the ports because I think trade is good,
Actually,
and
I think
automating the ports would.
I think the Longshoremen's Union is stupid because automating the port was going to cost something like $12 billion, and they weren't even going to do true automation. And if they had simply not been completely moronic, they would have created hundreds of jobs that are now not created. Again, workforce is elastic. I have to. I'm interested about the insulin thing that you mentioned. Did you benefit when Trump mandated that the cost of insulin be reduced during his first term, so that they couldn't just because they wanted to put that big price tag on it?
I mean, I should clarify. I personally don't.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was curious if you did.
I was giving the example, but to answer,
I got you. Yeah,
I think price caps on
that's actually
very inelastic goods are generally good, which is why, by the way, my man Biden also did those. You know, Trump during his first term, I understand, had Medicare Part D, I think, have like a voluntary price cap that only certain companies signed on to, and then Biden, with the Inflation Reduction Act, like greatly expanded that and capped it for like everyone. And Kamala Harris was actually going to cap drug prices even harder if she won, but didn't get that.
Well, I don't know that capping drug prices specifically is necessarily the answer, but what was the answer was to force them to not be able to overprice it just because it was on insurance. That's really the answer, is to make sure that the insurance companies are not paying one price while somebody who is not on insurance is paying another.
All right. Well, so, I think. I mean, I
understand where you're going. I just.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Biden did was cap it.
There's a better. I think you missed the overarching thing is that there's so much discrepancy, and I'm not really trying to get between you and Anson here. I just when things occur to me while you guys are talking. So,
right.
Anson just wanted to kind of get your worldview and viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, because you said you were a liberal, and from my perspective, that means you're just like Grid, because y'all are both liberals. So,
moron, because he's a monarchist, thinks we should be under a king.
Yeah, that's a little weird, but all right.
Why is that weird?
There's a great argument for it.
Monarchies existed way longer than liberalism. I'd say that liberalism's weird.
I mean, I just mean it's an odd position for someone to have in the modern day. I guess I don't come across monarchists very often. Is really what I mean.
More often than you think. I have learned more often than you think. So, yeah. Anyway, what time is it? I'm actually really surprised that my phone hasn't rang and my wife has not been mad at me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?"
What are you doing?
I'm sitting here talking to you guys. NonFun, you're going to come out on Saturday night and do some blood sport debating. Now, this will be different because this will be like 5-minute rounds. You got to get it done, make your argument, move, and hope you win.
I mean, I think I'm down. I'm pretty sure I'm free. So
sweet.
That'll
Bring your friends.
You're a smart guy, NonFun.
Hell yeah, I appreciate.
I actually like NonFun. Of all of the leftist goofball debaters, he is at least good faith for the most part.
Yeah, he reminds me of me when I was a Democrat.
Also,
you've been everything, Anson. You've literally been everything.
If you want another reason to like me, I don't like the income tax. By the way, I was going to reply to that earlier. Income tax, probably not optimal. Okay, but
yeah, it's a regressive tax for sure.
I mean,
what do you think about the idea? I'm just curious. It's not an idea about the reality that if we do not rebalance the trade market, I guess the globally. I mean, maybe not globally. If we do not fix our trade economy and the amount of money that flows out of the U.S. versus the amount of money that we retain, that we won't even be able to make the interest payment on what we owe ourselves in the next, I don't know, I don't know. But what I'll probably probably be here to you guys.
What do I? Your microphone, I think it's glitching out a little, but
well, it's because it's because of the memberships. Kissy Cat donated memberships because she's awesome, and so she donated 5 memberships. You got gifted a membership, didn't you?
Yeah, at some point, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
I mean, I guess so to answer your question, from what I heard of it, I guess I don't think it's a reality that if we don't balance a trade deficit, that we're going to default on debt or anything.
It's not necessarily the trade deficit. It's the amount of money that it's not just a trade. I mean, I understand it. We're really focused on trade right now, but there's so much more to it. The amount of foreign aid that we give out that we never receive anything back from. And it's an interesting dichotomy that we give a lot of companies, a lot of countries money, and they never pay us back. But we give, like, Israel money, people lose their minds, but Israel typically pays us back. Maybe not always in hard currency, but in technology or whatever, where other countries don't. So that's interesting. And Japan typically pays us back, right? Again, not always in hard currency.
I don't know exactly, but like, I mean, my understanding, foreign aid is just not that big a part of like the federal budget or anything. Like, it doesn't. I mean, even if these countries don't pay us back, like, we still a lot of times get benefits. Like Ukraine, Ukraine might end up paying us back because of the mineral deal or whatever. But like, even if that doesn't happen, like, I mean, Ukraine still, I mean, they
billions
got their
of dollars. That's taxpayer money, dude.
Right. I'm just saying that we still benefit from it in some ways, even if we like literally don't get paid back.
How
like
do
Russia,
we benefit?
Well, just for Russia, Ukraine, I'm just giving examples. Like, Russia is weakened, and
who cares?
We have military intelligence.
Why do we care if Russia is weak? They're not.
I mean, generally they're adversarial to us, so it generally seems beneficial to have them have a weaker military. Like,
they haven't had a strong military since World War II.
I mean, I don't know what's your definition of strong. They haven't had a military that could beat the U.S.
Right. So why do we care? This is the boogeyman effect.
Like, let's say, I don't know, like,
Anson, that's a great topic. Is this boogeyman effect? Why does our government specifically always give our society a boogeyman to be afraid of? If it's not Russia, it's China. Remember, nobody's afraid of Russia right now. So now, who's next is China. If it's not China, it's going to be somebody else.
Well, in order to consolidate power in a fascist state like the one we have, you basically constantly have to have some sort of evil demon outside of yourself, right? North Korea does it, Iran does it, Israel does it. All these states with highly centralized. Yeah. It's just liberal fascism is all it is.
It's interesting. We always have to have that boogeyman. Got to have him.
I mean, I don't know. It just generally seems like, you know, the U.S. has been the world superpower for a while, and there's kind of always a country.
But why does that mean we have to
challenge us on that? Like,
why do we?
What? I mean, I guess I mean, in a sense, like, I guess we don't have, like, the U.S. doesn't have to lead the free world or whatever. I would just say, like,
but do we have to? Okay, this is the fallacy that we run into, right? Is that on the one hand, everyone says, well, we have this soft power that we're supposed to use, which we do have, but now we've diminished both hard and soft power, and to what benefit? We don't gain a benefit, net or otherwise, by giving other nations money.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends. Obviously, I don't know. It seems like it's beneficial to have like South American allies that are trading with us, not China.
Let me. So basically, you're saying that we are the world police. The problem is world police get paid police get paid to protect the streets. Who's paying the U.S. to provide security for the world?
I mean, I would just say that we, do benefit from that probably on net. Like, it seems like.
How do we do that?
I mean, it lets it like international shipping lanes are protected because of us, and we benefit from trade because of that. It seems there's a lot of countries that are.
So is that a good reason for tariffs then, to pay for that?
Well, no, because we, for the most part, pay tariffs. That's not really.
Right. So all right, then it would be a good reason for us to tariff other countries to help offset our cost in protecting those shipping lanes.
Well, I think tariffs just hurt us and don't. I think it.
Why?
Like
why does it hurt? Why does it hurt every other? Why doesn't it hurt every other country but us?
Well, it does. What do you mean? The tariffs do hurt other countries, obviously.
How does China having a 40% tariff on U.S. goods hurt them?
Because they aren't able to buy U.S. goods. It creates needless distortion, needless deadweight loss.
They don't want our goods. They don't care.
I mean, they might not care that they could be richer if they didn't have the tariff. I mean, I would agree with that. But
we've literally made them millionaires. You're arguing in the wrong direction here.
Well,
most millionaires in the world are in China.
Sure, but it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's kind of
not mutually beneficial at all. We do not benefit at all.
We don't benefit at all from trade with China.
No. It's a net loss.
What about all the cheap goods that we buy from China? What about all the farmers that export to China? But there's an opportunity cost to
all the what in China? I'm sorry, all the what?
The farmers that export to China.
Okay, that's actually a good point. However, our food costs would be lower if we didn't do that. Plus, we wouldn't have to subsidize the farmers to do that.
Not
we have massive farm subsidies, dude. Like the farm bill every year, it's actually just it's right. Basically just a welfare program for wealthy farmers.
I mean, so there are plenty of farming subsidies I don't like, by the way, and I think part of the reason tariffs are bad is because typically, like we saw this in Trump's first term, China retaliated by tariffing our farmers, and we had to bail out our farmers, and that's expensive and right. Worthless or whatever.
So every other country, it works for every other country but us.
I told you I don't think it works for other countries. I think China would be richer if they didn't tariff us, and I think we are.
He's right, Grid. He's making an excellent point, because when you create those market distortions, it creates inefficiencies where prior to that they would actually be exchanging goods.
I'm 100% for actual free trade with zero government interference.
Yeah.
However, we don't have that.
Well, I don't think you're ever gonna get to that. Obviously to some extent, I think, because for a number of reasons. One, we're always gonna unless some crazy shit goes down, we're always gonna have fucking governments. I think that's reasonable to assume, and those governments are always gonna be susceptible to lobbying from special interests who want to, protect their industry via tariffs, or, let's say hypothetically, someone incompetent who doesn't understand economics gets into office and hires some incompetent economic advisors who just try to suck up to him. You're probably going to end up with tariffs in that situation, because tariffs, can kind of play into populism. I think it's I don't think you're ever going to get to the perfect ideal of free trade with no government intervention anywhere. Every nation is going to want to subsidize its farmers for political reasons, and also because they want some food supply in their own nation. But I don't think that prevents free trade from being mutually beneficial, even with some distortions.
So that's not 100% incorrect. However, when we talk about actual free trade free of government interference, that would mean that the government would not instill trade. We wouldn't do tariffs at all. But at the same time, much like back, when things worked reasonably well, ships would have to provide their own security against piracy or whatever, right? Right now, in theory, we supposedly secure the shipping lanes. However, we still have Somali pirates jacking ships.
Yeah.
So So I find this entire idea that we are the world police to be whimsical, and it's no longer necessary, useful, and mostly it cost the American taxpayer a lot of money for very little benefit to the American taxpayer. Now, you can say that the American government benefits a lot or whatever, and I'm all for politicians paying for whatever benefit they want to out of their own pocket. But for the American taxpayer, I think we've had enough. I think we've had enough. And I don't think there's a justification you can use against that. I think that at this point, the American taxpayer doesn't care about Russia. They don't care about China. They only care about China because they want the jobs to come back to the United States, right? They don't want they on one hand they say I don't want cheap Chinese goods, but then they go to buy something and the only thing they can buy is stuff made in China because American companies can't afford to make it. Which is weird considering it has to be shipped here. That's crazy.
Well, that's called competitive advantage, baby. Shipping is actually really, really efficient nowadays, which is great. I don't know. I mean, I guess I do think the U.S. as a whole probably benefits from our superpower status, and we probably lose that to some extent if we didn't protect shipping.
You haven't listed a benefit.
I said we get like military intelligence from Ukraine because they test weapons for us. Like I think Israel gives us military intelligence stuff in the Middle East. We benefit from shipping lanes being free.
No, come on. I can't let you do that. Look, they give us intelligence on our weapons. That's insane. We've blown up a lot
because they test weapon systems that we haven't used before. Forget the name of the program, but they test weapons we haven't used before, and
they don't have anything that's newer than 40 years old, and we've blown up a lot of people in the desert with those weapons.
I'm not convinced that's true. I'm pretty sure they've shared intelligence on missiles that we have.
Guaranteed they have it.
We have not. Okay, so if I look up Ukraine test weapons for U.S., like I'm pretty sure there's going to be how Ukraine became a weapon test bed for weapons.
Like, drones
and battle.
Yeah, well, he's talking about all the defense companies going over there and testing out their new tech as part of all of this aid to Ukraine, right? Raytheon and Boeing and all the other merchants of death going over there and taking advantage. Yeah, that's what they are. They're merchants of death, right? And they're going over there and they're basically.
You're not wrong. I just think it's funny when you say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the family business, right? Several generations of my family have been in the merchant of death business.
Are you Destro? Are you Destro? Well, I mean, I that would make me Cobra Commander, but I'm not evil.
But I will kind of add, I mean, in a sense, I think you're right. People will complain that all our jobs are going to China because their labor is so cheap or whatever.
They do.
But I mean, I think like actions speak louder than words, and people realize that they benefit from trade with China, and that's why they buy Chinese goods. I mean, certainly like there maybe are some goods that are literally only made in China, but like there are alternatives available for most people to buy.
Do you have an iPhone?
I have an Android, but I have a phone. Yeah.
Well, Androids are typically made in Korea, but I actually know the guy who set up the iPhone plant in China. It's very interesting. But they were originally made in California.
I mean, that makes sense, but
then they started making like a ton of them, and they just made more sense to make them in China. Yeah, which is weird.
It's not weird. It makes perfect sense why China, which has a lot of labor, would specialize in labor-intensive industries. In the U.S., which has like strong capital markets and strong.
It's not
assembling iPhones isn't labor-intensive.
The machine does it. You can't sit there and watch a machine. I promise you could sit there and watch the machine make the iPhone.
Sure. So I mean, I know it's probably to a large extent automated today. Which, by the way, I'll add, a big reason for decline in U.S. manufacturing is not China. It's because of automation and productivity increases. U.S. manufacturing output was increasing all the way up until 2008, when the manufacturing share of employment was going down because the U.S. just got better and more automated at producing things. Like a lot of this manufacturing work is automated nowadays. The country that actually lost the most manufacturing jobs over the last 100 years has been China, because China, you're correct, has automated things. Now, it is still... my understanding, it does require people in Foxconn, Suicide Net workshops to produce iPhones, it's still a relatively labor intensive thing. It makes sense again. If you don't want to use China, use Cambodia or Vietnam or these other places. It makes sense for them to specialize in labor intensive industries, and the U.S. to specialize in more capital intensive industries.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the main reason they relocated the plant from California to China, there were three reasons really. First, obviously, there was some tax incentives there to move out of California, where they tax literally everything, and have a lot of various bullshit to deal with. But also, with the way our EPA and other things work, it's just really stupidly expensive to do business here. As somebody that has owned companies and employed people, I'll tell you, man, if you got the government out of the way, we could compete with China 100% and make better.
In what industry?
Grid. My entire employment requires all of that unnecessary paperwork and overhead. I would not have been employed for the last 15 years if it wasn't for the bureaucratic fascism that we have, right? So
so you'd have to get a real job then.
Yeah, I would. I'd have to do something that actually was productive, unlike the 40% of the economy that only exists because of the bullshit.
I'm not trying to get you unemployed, Anson. But maybe you should consider some retraining.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just become a YouTuber.
Yeah. So a lot of manufacturing is, while it's semi-automated, it's not 100%. One of the things I find interesting is I actually have read a couple of different studies on the effects of automation on industry, and as somebody who's about to buy, I'm actually about to buy a company that does automation, a form of automation for industry. It's still got to have people there. Sorry.
Oh, so I was talking to my chat, but
I got you. It's interesting because the actual job of putting the piece of metal in and welding it or whatever it is, that isn't done. That's done more or less by machines now, but there still has to be a guy standing there, make sure it happens right. And those machines require a lot of maintenance and service and that sort of thing. So the manufacturing jobs, sure, those drop because you have a machine there, but the overall number of jobs increase because of the number of people that are required to feed the machine and keep the machine running.
Right. Sorry. I think that's a good point. I think this is actually a pretty useful way to view trade. Is just a type of technology that lets us indirectly produce the things that we import by first producing things that we're better at producing to export them and then trade for the goods that we import. And I think like any form of technology, it might create job losses in some places, but it's going to create other jobs in other areas, right? Like the internet created software developers, even if it automated other jobs. And I think that usually leads to a net job increase. And that's part of the reason that trade typically leads to a net job increase as well.
Yeah, and Adam Smith's invisible hand. Yeah, I took Econ 101 in high school too. What I don't understand is why that doesn't apply, as rigidly to other things that are traded, domestically. Like the labor issues and the things that Grid's bringing up are the distortions in the market that cause the costs of production here to be ridiculous. OSHA, the EPA, labor unions. I mean, there's all different kinds of examples of things. The tax structure, all of it, right? Like it's extraordinarily difficult to hire people in a cheap way to be able to meet the kind of margins that you'd have to meet, because labor is always the highest cost input when you're an employer.
I mean, look,
it's
again,
almost
it's
always
a cost and benefit analysis, and it seems like, all right, suppose that the demand for labor is inelastic, or even let's use land, because the supply of land is perfectly inelastic. under that scenario, taxing land is just not really, it's just not distortionary because the supply is fixed, and it makes perfect sense to tax land and collect its rents.
Well, it is distortionary because there's unseen costs, right? If you tax land, people will live in smaller places, and the land won't be utilized in the same way.
Well, no,
right?
I actually think it gives you an incentive to utilize land, right? Because if you tax the value of land, regardless of whether there's stuff on it or not, you have an incentive to develop the land for productive use cases rather than just let the land sit there idly. I actually think it gives an incentive against land banking.
No,
and against...
you would incentivize people to abandon land.
Well, no, because what do you mean abandon? I mean, I guess if the land technically
no one owns it, no one pays taxes on it.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess, but like people are not gonna abandon most land in cities, right? Like I don't know you even know what percentage of U.S. land is just like not owned. I'm pretty sure most of it is owned.
Almost the entire state of Idaho, a lot of the West, because the government. Yeah,
well, the government. I understand the federal government has federal lands and stuff, but
no. I mean, there's literally miles and miles of land that nobody owns.
I mean that
you don't really know how big this country is until you drive across it.
I mean, okay, but I mean, like people. I mean, the case where land value taxes are going to be like most effective usually is like cities. It's in areas where people are not just going to abandon land just because it's valuable. That's kind of the whole.
Wait, are you in a city, NonFon? Are you in a big city?
No, not a big one. No.
Like above 500,000.
No, we have 50,000 people where I am.
Oh, well then what's wrong with you, dude? I mean, why aren't you normal?
Why am I not normal?
Fucking hell!
I don't know. A lot of
all right.
The liberal mind indoctrination still got to me. Okay, I don't know.
Well, I mean, usually I can explain like someone's collectivist mindset by the population density that they live in, because that's usually the highest correlate, and so that's why I assumed you were in a larger city.
I mean, there are really good reasons to collectivize land rent. Look, no one who receives value from land is either made it or is responsible for its value. The land predates human society, and its value in large part just comes from the surrounding community, right? It comes from its location, which you don't influence. It's land, you can't move it. So there are really good reasons to collectivize land rents. You should collectivize that, I would argue. That's actually probably the best thing to collectivize is land rents.
Yeah, and you're talking about the Georgist model of taxation, and I'm actually supportive of that. A one tax state. That was tried several times, like 120, 150 years ago, the Georgist model, and that's not necessarily bad as long as it's the only tax collected, because it's very close to the monarchist system where the king collects rents from the landowners, right? So I'm behind that 100%. That's a good monarchy model.
I mean, I'm Georgist in the sense that I do think it's important to. Well, I love taxes. I do like taxes. Okay. Well, I like good taxes and I don't like bad taxes. But I mean, like, I think it's probably not feasible to literally collect all government revenue from land rents because of how the size of the U.S. government nowadays. It might be feasible in certain cities, maybe. Yeah. But like, I don't know. You should probably do land rents.
Trim all the waste out. It'd be great.
That's a good argument that's a good argument for dismantling the government. I like that. I like that dismantling the government argument you just made. I'm going to turn you into an anarchist, and then ease you into monarchy. That's what I'm going to do.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like the size of the U.S. government, isn't even really that big compared to other developed countries. I think we tax like 18% of GDP from the federal, at least the federal taxes. In most other countries, it's like closer to 30, 40%. Like it just doesn't seem like our government is really that big, but we get a lot of shit for it. We get roads, we get Social Security.
You're okay. You're gonna compare United States against other. All right, let me ask you a question. Do you think Germany is a successful country?
Relative to the entire world, yes, I would say so. But
The
I don't think
developed
it's
world. How about that?
compared to the
Do you think
developed
it even
world.
belongs to be
I
called a
don't.
first world country at this point?
Germany, I would still consider them a first world country. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. What are they not a first world country? Their GDP has been stagnant, but they're finally doing some fiscal
It's
stimulus.
a horrible. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know, man. Look into it for yourself. It's horrible. How about France? Do you think France? I mean, France
Wait,
obviously.
I just want to just for
I
you
went
in the
there last
chat.
year and it was okay, but what about France and Spain? Do you think France and Spain have successful models of government?
I don't know enough about Spain. France, I think is. I mean, I would still probably consider them first world, but I don't think France is particularly great.
Okay.
I will add
What
though,
is a
Germany
success?
has a balanced budget and a trade surplus, and it's surprising that you don't think that makes a great country. Because that's what Trump wants.
Well, that's because they don't have to provide any of their own security. We do that for them.
I don't think that's the biggest reason, but all right.
Even yeah, I don't know. I don't think that that is actually really the only reason. They don't have to do pretty much, and also I believe that they're still getting money from the United States. But I'd have to check on that. I think that I don't know if they're still getting U.S. aid or not, but U.S. foreign aid. Pardon me. I could be wrong about that.
So I mean, but what's so
I
bad
don't.
about
What
what's
do you
so
what
bad
do you
about
think?
Germany?
What do you think is a? It's an interesting statement. I'm just curious. What do you think is a successful country?
I don't know, a country where the standard of living is pretty high, where people, generally speaking, have
Well,
access to.
what country? I mean, let me rephrase. What
Oh,
country would you point to as a successful country?
Norway, Estonia, Sweden.
Norway. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Iceland. My buddy said, Lord of Pi says Iceland.
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know much about Iceland, but they only have like
I don't either.
300,000.
That wouldn't have been at the top of my
Yeah.
list.
They don't have very many people. I looked into going to Iceland for college, and I looked at it, and like there's like 2 colleges there, and they're like the size of my high school, and I'm like, I don't really know if
Yeah.
I want to. I don't really know if I want to go there.
Yeah, yeah. Are you sure they're? You think Norway is? You think Norway is successful?
Yeah, I think
Why?
they're one of the most successful. I mean, I think their economy is pretty good. I think their political system is pretty good. It seems like they are able to have like proportional representation. They're able to have a very transparent
Wait,
government.
what do you mean proportional representation?
I mean, so I don't know. I might need to fact check on this. My understanding is Norway has a proportional, like a different voting system. So it allows third parties to actually run and compete. It's not a first past the post system where like the first person or the person who gets the majority wins. They have.
That's all parliamentary systems for the most part. Like ours is not a parliamentary system; it's different. Like most
Right.
European countries are parliamentaries, have a parliament, and so they don't have the 2-party problems that we have. You can form up a new party and start a new movement anytime you want, and it's a whole hell of a lot easier.
Right. I mean, there are parliamentary countries like the UK which still have a first past the post system. Although they do at least have a stronger third party movement than the US does.
I mean,
but
well,
but
no, that's
Norway
not entirely true. I mean, there's been a really good example in the last decade or whatever of the, what is it, the last decade and a half, the Brexit movement was a political party that sprung up and they were successful. I mean, it's not like the United
that's
States
what I
where
just said.
yeah, I'm saying like they it's a parliament. They have, but the reason why we don't have a 2-party structure within our government is because the 2 parties have written in laws to create barriers to entry for third parties. 100 years ago, in the election for president, there were active third and fourth parties running for president, but systematically over the last 100 years, both political parties have made it extraordinarily difficult for competition. Both the Democrats and the Republicans did that. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the structure of our system, but it's the intent to prevent outside ideas from coming in because they're disruptive.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't entirely disagree with you. I think both the Democrats and Republicans probably created those barriers because they have a vested interest in keeping the U.S. a 2-party system. But a first past the post system will always naturally move towards a smaller number of parties in some type of proportional ranked choice voting system. And in Norway,
that doesn't match our history. The reason why
I don't think the U.S. has ever had a ranked choice voting system or
no, they didn't need a ranked choice voting system because they didn't have laws to prevent third parties. Things that prevent all the laws related to campaign finance. You basically have to hire an attorney and an accountant army if you're going to have a political party. It's insane, right? All these things prevent people at the grassroots level from forming coalitions because they'll get put in jail if they put the wrong dollar in the wrong account by accident, right? It's a system, and same thing happens with regulation in business. It's the same thing you're missing in business, right? All these laws that prevent people from starting up businesses and creating wealth because of the barriers to entry created from regulation. The regulations in the political environment are the same as the regulations in the regular economy, right? It's causing the same exact problem. And your solutions have been more government, more interference instead of just letting people do what the hell they're going to do.
Well, except on tariffs. Tariffs are.
Well, that's just because Orange Man's bad.
Well, no, there are plenty of areas where I don't want government intervention. Like I'm a neoliberal. I have a presumption in favor of the free market.
But you're a socialist.
Right? Look, did you? I don't think I'm a socialist. But
wait. I thought neoliberals were socialists.
Not under a reasonable definition of socialist. If you're Fabian Liberty, he would call me a socialist. He would call a neoliberal socialist. But I mean, under a reasonable definition, I don't think we're not socialists.
I don't know what a reasonable. I just know my understanding is that neoliberals were socialists who believed in large government handout systems, extreme social welfare.
So, I do believe in a welfare state. I don't think that alone makes me a socialist or anything.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, if the welfare state is what makes you a socialist, that's fine. But like, I don't know. It's kind of for most people, it's kind of weird. It would be weird to say, "Hey, I'm a socialist." No, I don't want worker co-ops. No, I don't want the government to own businesses. I just want people to have welfare. Like,
do you believe in private wealth?
What do you mean in private wealth? Yeah, I mean, I believe people should be able to acquire.
Do you believe it's okay for Elon Musk to be worth $100 billion or whatever he's worth today?
In principle, yes. Elon Musk's a bad example because he's bad.
You just don't like Elon. How about Jeff Bezos? $45 billion.
Yeah, I have no problem with billionaires existing generally. I do want a tax system to sort of redistribute consumption to the lower classes as well, but.
What lower classes? Are you a lower class than I am?
Middle. What do you mean? Am I a lower class denier?
I said, are you a lower class than I am?
Oh, than I am. I would guess. Aren't you aren't you pretty successful, Grid? I would guess, but.
Yeah, but I was originally dirt poor.
Right. That doesn't really change much. I mean, right now you're obviously a higher class than I am. I understand people can migrate through classes, and people often do.
So you want the opportunity for you to become Jeff Bezos removed from the table?
Well, no, I think no. So, my ideal system would be a consumption tax, a progressive consumption tax. So you would still be able to become Jeff Bezos. It's just that you would be taxed when you spend your money on things to consume.
He is taxed when he spends his money.
Everybody
else.
Well, that's kind of the issue there is like everyone else. So like if Jeff Bezos buys a mega yacht or whatever, that's still like the same flat sales tax or whatever. And
if I buy I know this is irrelevant largely, but if I buy $100,000 item and I pay $25,000 in tax, that's what it is, just like if I buy a $80,000 pickup and I pay, 8% tax on it, and I pay that, it's the same tax that anybody else would pay. Why does the weight of my bank account or the ability or the wealth that I have determine the amount of tax I should pay?
Because of marginal utility, dollars get increasingly less valuable the more you have, just like almost anything else. There's diminishing marginal utility.
But
You
it's
know, like
wait.
the difference, you know, $10,000 means a lot to a poor person. $10,000 is basically nothing to Jeff Bezos because the marginal utility of $10,000 is so low for Jeff Bezos, and the marginal utility of $10,000 to a homeless person is a fuck ton. Like,
Well, yeah, but $10,000 to Jeff Bezos is not. And what you're saying is it's not $10,000 to you know, some podunk poor guy like Grid, right? So the
$4.99 comes in from Ben. College shouldn't be free, and degree inflation is real. So many women get degrees in backdoor activity, and it devalues Anson's degree in that field. I mean, points for being clever. Points for being clever. That was funny.
yeah, that was good. Like I can
It's
understand.
just
Like,
late. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
Yeah.
You would have had, you should have done that like 2 hours ago, and it would have been really fun.
I'm a fan of women who major in backdoor activities.
We understood. We got it. Everybody knows.
underwater basket weaving is the only real major. That's the only one the government should support.
Yeah. Are you in college, NonFon?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you studying anything useful or?
So right now I go to my community college. I'm getting a.
Oh, cool.
I'm getting a associates in the sciences or something, and basically just to get a bunch of like general ed classes out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually,
Sure.
when I transfer to a big boy college, I'll be able to do economics and start on that.
Okay. What do you want to be in life?
It's a good question. I don't know. Well, ideally, NonFun on YouTube, NonFun 420, Twitch and Kick. Let's get some subs, get some bits. Ideally, the streaming would work out. That's not going to happen. But shameless plug.
Why not?
I mean, you're funny.
And you're intelligent and you think.
True, real. Unlikely to happen, I'll say. But I don't know. Like, I don't think about it a lot. I'll probably do something economics related. So I wouldn't necessarily want to be like a financial guy. So that, I don't know, that leaves me with like some type of research job, or maybe my dream job, okay, is to work at the Federal Reserve. That's what I want to do. Work for the central bank and be a central banker. That's the ideal. That's what I want to be. But
my wife worked in investment banking, or does work in investment banking. I shouldn't say worked. She works in investment banking. For the most hated, you probably really hate her former employer. So she's moving. She's changing banks right now. There's a period of time. It's irrelevant. I mean, it's just really weird knowledge, but you can't just go from one bank to another. You literally have to have like 2 or 3 months in between, because you have insider knowledge of what's going on. And, they have to just make sure that you're not going to screw anything up. So, no, my wife worked for Goldman Sachs.
I mean, I got nothing. Again, I'm a capitalist. Okay, I don't like hate banks or anything. I just
Yeah, he wants to work for the Federal Reserve. They're basically owned by J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs. I mean, they're basically the monopoly syndicate for the big banks. He loves big banks. What are you talking about?
Well,
she worked in the wrong area. She was in investment banking and technology. You probably. So you're doing community colleges. I always think that's a great choice, just to kind of figure out what you want to do, and it's a lot less money than fucking around in real college and getting drunk all the time. So that's actually a really solid choice. I mean, what big boy college you want to go to?
I mean, I'm still thinking about going. You're gonna hate it. Still thinking about going to college somewhere in Norway or Finland or something, because I think that'd be cool, and I think those countries are awesome. Not that I don't like America, but I don't know. I live in North Carolina, so we got some pretty decent universities here. I've been thinking,
Yeah,
like, one of
Duke's
my
really good. They've got a good econ program at Duke.
Yeah, Duke
So-
is actually really. Duke would be one of my first choices if I were going to go.
I haven't put a ton of thought into it, but if I go to when I go to a bigger college, it'll probably either be some place in Europe or it'll be closer to it'll be in North Carolina. We have decent universities here, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If
Who's
you go ahead.
who's your favorite economist, Nonfon?
Ooh, let's see. I want to say you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate it. I want to say Paul Krugman, and I like Paul Krugman.
He's okay. Yeah, got it. He's the William Shatner of economists. Yep.
And I understand people don't like Paul Krugman, but I think there's a Douglas A. Irwin, I think is his name. I like his work in trade economics. There's another economist, Robert C. Lawrence, who I think is another really good trade economist, and I like both of their stuff quite a bit. But I think Krugman might actually have to be my favorite, despite there are probably places I disagree with Krugman on, like wealth taxes and stuff. But
there's a podcast that I watched all the episodes of. There's like 200 episodes called The
I have a Norwegian in my chat that's like, I'm Norwegian. He's got a strange fascination with Norway.
Norway is look at Norway's sovereign wealth fund. Okay,
that's why I can't pronounce your name, Stephen Akre, whatever. I don't know. That's why I can't pronounce your name. $5 came in from Silvar Ogre. Just don't waste money on criminal science with a minor in psych. Actually, I have almost a duplicate degree. I majored in psychology with a criminal justice, a dual degree, a double bachelor, and a minor in philosophy with an emphasis on Asian thought. Not
that's a surprise.
Not THOT, Anson. And then I realized I hated being in offices, so I went and did racing and stuff.
So Nonfun, there's this podcast called the Contra Krugman podcast. It's devoted entirely to trashing Paul Krugman. It's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. You should catch it sometime.
I mean, I haven't watched it, but I think Krugman is a really good trade economist, and I think he has, generally pretty. I think he's a really good writer, and I think he has a really good explanation of things like the business cycle and the babysitting co-op and all that jazz.
I'm actually trying to go to sleep, Glenn. I was about to leave when Nonfon came up, and it's been an interesting conversation. So it was almost a debate between Anson and Nonfon there. I had to keep interrupting so they didn't just like go off to the races and we'd be here for 3 fucking hours again. You're welcome to come up if you want to. You got the link. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I will add. There is I'll grant you evil libertarians a bone here, okay? And not that, I don't know if I guess guys don't consider yourself libertarians, but economically, you're more libertarian than me. Scott Sumner is an economist who's a libertarian. And I think he is pretty good too. I think he's right about monetary policy for the most part. So
little did I know how useful the degree was. So Paige, appreciate the $2 Canadian. I think that's like 75 cents in American money. That's okay. Actually, I started with a degree in environmental science and technology and I did all of these heavy science classes, chemistry, physics, biology, microbiology, all of it to do environmental science and tech. But my classmates were just the weirdest leftist motherfuckers ever. And it just drove me crazy. I wasn't as calm and reserved as I am now. I was a lot different. And they drove me absolutely fucking batty. And and I started looking at the jobs, and it was just like, man, I don't I don't know if I actually want to work in this field. And so, but I had so many science credits that it just didn't transfer to anything else. And I wanted to go pre-law. And the shortest path there was to go to psychology, and because they had the cutest girls, and just get any degree basically. And so that's where the most credits transferred over to do that. That's why I have that specific combination of degrees.
All right. Well, I gotta get off this panel grid. It's super late, and Glenn Lawrence just got up here.
Well, I got to get off this panel. I got to go to bed. I have things to do.
Yeah. Good night, Grid. NonFun. It was a pleasure speaking with you. You know,
He'll be here Saturday night. He's gonna fuck you up on something. We'll put in a special leftist debate just for NonFun.
Oh, leftist debate. Oh boy. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
What the debate topic will be? Why are homogenous cultures the ones that leftists admire the most, and what can we do about it?
I thought a better question would be like, why are the leftists so gay?
Oh, that's not fun.
No, seriously, like most of it's a question. Seriously, why?
It is true. I'm trying to be a nice guy here. Be a good host. What are you doing?
I don't mean by gay.
Glenn Lawrence, how the hell are you, man? You missed Viking. Viking was up here for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I saw that. Me and Pearl were chatting about things, so working on something business, like business comes before pleasure.
Yeah. I was surprised Rolo didn't come on the show tonight to show me up.
Why would you be surprised? Like, he avoids debates.
Yeah, I know.
It took Alex from Playing with Fire like 3 years of nagging him till he finally agreed to do a debate. But then he only agreed to do the debate on like X, and Mike Sartain had to be there. So it was like he had to have his buddy there to debate or be there for the debate. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that he doesn't
do good with debates. He lost against Ruslan too. Or he didn't lose, but he just didn't do well against Ruslan.
I don't remember Ruslan. But
Ruslan is a Christian rapper, and he has a podcast on YouTube as well.
I got you.
So,
NonFon, are you a typical leftist, atheist guy? Are you a Christian, or what are you?
I mean, again, I want to consider myself leftist, but I mean, I don't put like a ton of thought on religion.
Am I abusing you? Do you feel abused? I'm sorry if you feel abused.
I don't feel abused.
Right,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm an atheist. I guess I don't put a ton of thought into religion. Maybe one day I'll go on another
you want to journey and find Jesus?
I don't think no, I think it'd be, I mean, who knows? Maybe that would be the outcome, but I just mean maybe one day I'll go on instead of reading whatever stuff I'm reading now.
All religions and all non-religions still get you to God.
That's true.
At Judgment Day.
Okay. Oh, okay. True.
I really wasn't trying to beat up on you, NonFon. I don't want to get CPS involved.
Actually, NonFon, don't believe him. Because earlier when he and I was on a phone earlier, he was talking about beating you up. Like, and
wow.
Guys like fucking NonFon. No, I'm kidding. He didn't say anything mean about you.
I have CPS up in here.
But he did say like you would be good to come on his debate podcast or debate show.
I did say you were going to come on, or more than likely you were going to come on. I did say that. That's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be cool, man.
Good will be judged on Judgment Day for beating up, for abusing,
beating up a poor defenseless kid.
Well, I mean, if anything, I would think it would look more like he was trying to make a man out of you.
Maybe
that's not my job. That's not my job. So, well, you're feeling pretty spicy tonight, Lawrence. How come you're not streaming?
Bro, I'm busy with 900 other things.
Yeah, I know that.
Like, I'm also was working on your motion graphics.
Oh,
thank
sweet.
you very much. They're not going to be ready by Saturday. That's for damn sure.
I knew that. I mean, it is what it is.
But they're going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true.
So what? Nothing to talk about. No crazy.
I was literally we were 3 minutes from shutdown when Nonfon came up, and then I was like,
well,
I'm going to let him and Anson go at it. And Anson surprised me a little bit tonight. He's that he hides the knife in a pillow. So he's like, hey, what? Oh, you agree with that? Okay, good. Here, this is what you're really talking about. It's really, gotta be careful with Anson. I made some notes.
Oh, I would not trust that hillbilly as far as I could throw him.
Yeah,
I like him.
Really
I'll be careful around him.
I could go.
I'm definitely not drinking out of the same moonshine bottle.
Yeah, that's probably true. His will be way too strong for you. So
he's like, "Oh, put some hair on your chest." I'm like, "Bro, I'm Italian. I already got hair on my chest."
Yeah, it'll burn it all off. So, Nonfon, what other than the tariffs, what else do you like to debate? What other subjects are you debating?
I don't know. That's been my main thing I've been debating people on for, I don't know, the last 2 weeks. I mean, I'll debate people, on whatever.
Last 2 weeks?
News.
I want to say, since I came across you, Nonfon, you've been debating tariffs. So
that is
I want to say at least 4 months.
Well, that's kind of where. Well, I think I initially, when I first started streaming, Israel-Palestine was kind of the main thing I talked about, and then as the election drew closer, I think Israel-Palestine, when I first started streaming, literally almost a year ago, is what I kind of started out debating and everything. And then, I don't know, as the election got closer. No, I'm generally pro-Israel-ish, I would say.
Okay. Generally pro.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be caveats. So, I don't think they should annex the West Bank or anything, but. And then, the election kind of got closer, and the thing just kind of became Trump versus Kamala, and I would do a lot of debates, and tariffs would come up, and I would try to drill down with people on tariffs. I don't know. And then after the election, it wasn't as relevant.
But what's your position on the whole Palestine-Israel thing?
Dude, no. Dude,
I just want to know. I'm not going to debate him. I just want to know. I just want to know where.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I say generally, I think Israel is in the right to defend themselves after October 7th. I think Israel, for the most part, adheres to the rules around conduct in war, kind of, mostly, sometimes when they feel like it.
Nobody really does, honestly, but.
Well, I mean, war is hell. So, hey, I got a question for you, Nonfon. This is interesting. You actually reminded me of something I was having a discussion with someone else the other day. I want to get your position on it.
All right.
No harm, no foul. So, do you think that the reason Trump, when he was basically giving everyone equivocal tariffs, except Israel, and he slapped them with 17% instead of, I think they were tariffing us like 10 or 12%, and he smacked them with 17% tariff. Do you think that was him kind of retaliating for them breaking the ceasefire when he went to bat for them?
No, I think Trump has no understanding of what the trade deficit is and no understanding of economics generally.
Trump is a retarded clown.
Well, listen, look at the formula they used. The way they determined the rate at which these countries are tariffing us was dividing the trade deficit in goods by the amount we import from the country. That has nothing to do with how much they're tariffing us. It's just a retarded calculation based on the presumption that we should have balanced trade with every nation, which is absurd. And balanced trade in goods, not even including services, because the U.S. is a service economy, and we export a lot of services. We import goods and export services. It's absurd, and it's totally incompetent.
So everybody else, if they were tariffing 10%, they got 10%.
Hold on, but you're derailing my question about.
Right.
Thank you. So
hold on, real quick. I'll add. They didn't even apply their formula correctly. They literally made an error in one of the numbers that inflated the figure that they were tariffing by 4. They confused the elasticity of imports with respect to import prices with the elasticity of retail prices with respect to tariffs. It was horrible. It was incompetent. But anyway.
Okay, back to my question because that's more important. So you were pro-Israel after October, but prior to that, you don't think Israel. You're like pro-Palestine, or
No, I just mean I was just giving you my position, and I think after October 7th, they were in the right to defend themselves. Like prior to October 7th, like I support Israel existing. I don't think they're like I think Israel's in the right to defend themselves for like all the Arab-Israeli wars. Basically, the Suez crisis, I think you can have disputes about, and I think the war of attrition you can maybe blame Israel for a little bit. But other than that, I think Israel's been right for the most part historically.
Do you think that we should like intervene and try to like, I don't know, help Palestine or help Israel? Either one of them.
I mean, so it's going to be hard because I think there are fucked up things Israel does. I think optimally, we should not support Israel until they fucking fuck off with the West Bank shit they're doing. They should. I think they might be in the right to occupy the West Bank generally, but I think the settlements are bad. They shouldn't do that. I think.
Like, would you feel bad if Israel just fucking just devoured Palestine? Just.
Well, yeah, obviously, and I think that's I'm generally supportive of like a two-state solution.
That's how countries were. That's what countries did for centuries.
I mean, I understand, and I just think that makes it kind of good to support now. Like, I think that's what I think that's actually what thing that saddens me about Trump's win is I feel like Biden, would have at least pushed for a two-state solution. I don't know if that's actually possible, but like if Israel tries to annex the West Bank now, I think Trump would just be okay with that. He recognized the annexation of the Golan Heights and he moved the capital to Jerusalem. He seems to be in support of Israel annexing the West Bank, and I think that would basically be the death of like any fully sovereign Palestinian state existing. And I think that's kind of sad, but
I think if the Palestinian state can exist by defending themselves, then they shouldn't exist. I think that's true with any nation. If you cannot defend your nation, if your nation doesn't have the ability to defend itself, and some other country comes over and kicks in your door and decides to call your place home, either you comply or die.
I don't know why we would hold this might makes right position. I feel like that's not a good thing to base morality off of.
It's not might makes right. That's just the nature of war.
Yeah, but I mean, you're making like an ought statement. You're saying like, Palestine ought not exist if they can't.
We should get involved in anybody's business, any other country's business. Like,
all right, guys, I'm going to bed. 5:30 comes early. It is 12:13. Got an extra hour out of me tonight. That's awesome.
But I do like Nonfon's position. Like, oh yeah, after this event, I agree. Like, defend yourself. Because most people that I've talked to that are pro-Palestine, they were like, under no circumstances should Israel be able to defend themselves. No way.
Well, sure. So,
yeah.
That's maybe you're not as liberal as I thought you were. I mean, to be fair, I think throw me off a little bit, but
a lot of the hardcore pro-Palestine people aren't really liberal. They're like socialist and everything. But
what do you think about like gays for Palestine? Do you think it's kind of like an oxymoron?
Yes and no. I mean, I understand. Obviously,
you think like they're gonna like win the Muslims over by loving on them, giving them big hugs or something?
Well, I think if you are under the presumption that Gazans are actually experiencing a genocide, then like it's totally fair to stand up for Gazans because you think they're experiencing a genocide. And if you believe that they are oppressed and occupied, as these people do, then it makes sense to. I mean, I don't think it's totally irrational to say like, oh, gay people are also oppressed and oppressed people should stand with oppressed people. I think that's kind of the line of thinking there, and I don't think that's wholly.
I think straight people are oppressed.
All right, guys.
Where?
I gotta go.
I think straight people are oppressed. I mean, all the gay shit they throw at us all the time. I'm oppressed. There's like gay advertisements on TV now. I'm being oppressed. My eyes are forced to see this.
You look oppressed, actually.
I look depressed right now.
and you're about to be further oppressed because I'm kicking you off. And
well, I'm gonna take a shit on your lawn and
taking my ball and going home. I'm actually gonna send you guys over to the Powdered Dusty. Chaotic Truth is still going. I think he's going for like a 12 or 14 hour stream. That's nuts. It looks crazy. Whatever's going on over there looks insane. So you
Hey,
guys
Greg, give me a call tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll give you a call tomorrow, man.
All right.
Non-fun. Good to have you up, man. We'll talk to you later.
Yep, good to see you.
If
If you want to chat with me live, sub here or go to Nonfon420 on Twitch or Kick via the links below. Once again, please like and sub to help with the algorithm, and consider sending a donation through YouTube Super Thanks to directly support me, and I'll make sure to reply to any question you ask. See you guys next time.